Now, the foundations of behavior-based safety had to do with looking at these low probability risks and trying to figure out what behavior could potentially prevent them. So, traditional safety tends to rely on traditional tools. Tools such as engineering and design. Can we design a safe workplace? Can we maintain a safe workplace? It relies heavily also on the behavioral side on things like rules and procedures, on supervision, on training, on enforcement of the rules, and complying with the legal side of safety. Now, all of these things are necessary. All of these things are an important part of safety. But behavior-based safety tends to go significantly above them. As we tried to get more and more proactive in safety, we started adopting safety programs. And there's nothing wrong with a program. A program generally has a plan beginning and an end, but we became kind of program addicted in safety. And a lot of people are out there, and some of you may be looking for your next safety program. Now, what are the weaknesses of traditional safety? Well, there's many, but I'd like to touch on a couple of them today because I think they are significant to the importance of behavior-based safety. One is that we used to say, well, our workers don't have to be safe. Our supervisors will be there to make them safe. More and more jobs are being done in an unsupervised fashion. This particular fellow right here was up just north of Cincinnati, Ohio. His boss, his supervisor, dropped him off and said, change the light bulbs in 5 parking lots. His ladder would reach 4 of them. When he got to this 5th parking lot, the light standards were taller. Now, he didn't have a taller ladder with him, but he did have a flatbed truck and a fork truck. And he went around behind one of the buildings and found a pallet to put on the fork truck, and he found a little plastic milk crate. That's that little blue thing that you see out there. This is very creative for getting the job done, but it's not terribly safe, and it was totally unsupervised. The programs that I mentioned earlier are another weakness of traditional safety. We tend to get into the programs, and the programs tend to become safety rather than safety relying on and being aided by the programs. This fellow's hanging up a banner that says "Think Safety," but since he's standing on the rail of his lift without fall protection, kind of doubtful that the program is taking over yet. One of the things that led us to this program of the month mentality was trying to keep safety awareness high. And we found out very quickly as we started trying to raise levels of awareness that awareness doesn't last very long. And it takes something new to raise the level of awareness. Even a sign like this that says "Think Safety" will catch people's attention for a period of time, and then it will quit working. It will fade into the background, and even if it's still there, we'll quit noticing it. Now, one of the things that happened as we developed behavior-based safety and started looking at things in a more proactive way was that the working place became very lean. And lean at first, and to a lot of people, wasn't called lean. It was called re-engineering. It was called downsizing, right-sizing, bright-sizing, all kinds of things out there in the world. But lean, once it really took hold, we found out is not just less. Lean isn't just downsizing, it's not just doing less. Lean is a number of other things, realizing the reality of the workplace. How do we aim more directly at the desired results? How do we remove what the Japanese call MUDA, unnecessary steps, non-value added features? In other words, waste in processes. How do we explore alternative methods and maximize the use of our existing structure? Also, how do we get this thing to work? And this is an interesting part of it too. Traditional safety is very program-oriented. When we developed behavior-based safety, we said we don't want a program, we want a process. We want something that isn't something we do extra for a while, but becomes the way we do what we do, which is one of the more sophisticated definitions of safety. So we had to make it results-oriented. How do we get a quick win, and how do we move on from one win to another rather than becoming process-oriented, which is what a lot of behavior-based safety has become also, rather than results-oriented. Lean strategy has a number of parts that apply directly to safety. We've applied them directly to behavior-based safety, and that's where a lot of these advances have come from. One is customization. Is this fit for purpose? And a lot of the behavior-based safety processes that are out there in the world basically ask you to make your organization fit the process. The process is proven. If you can make your organization fit it, it will work for you. Lean behavior-based safety is all about customizing the process for the site and for the specific culture and making it work that way. We also look for resource efficiency. Are the activities that we're doing working? You know, one of the interesting things that we find, and we assess a lot of sites for companies. In fact, Sean and I will be at a site in Florida next week doing an assessment to find out where their opportunities are to further improve safety. We very seldom go to a site where they aren't doing enough. In fact, almost always there's a fabulous amount of activity going on around safety. And usually what we find opportunities to do is not add new activities, but to make the existing activities more efficient. That's a great way to improve safety because it doesn't require additional resources to do it. We also want to minimize the perception of change. You know, most workers are trying to be safe. Most organizations are trying to be safe. It's not massive change that's usually needed. It's usually a little bit of redirection. And rather than putting in a huge process that's all brand new, instead of ignoring existing structure and putting in a whole new process, we usually can tie into processes that are already there, to structure that's already there. Teams, committees, organizational issues. A lot of times using those rather than replacing them or building redundant systems can really make a huge difference. It also minimizes the perception of change, which minimizes the resistance to change. You have to keep this results driven. As you do the change in your organization, it's not change for change's sake. It's not just change in structure, not just change in process. It's change in results. One of the things that we find, we get called in very often behind existing BBS processes that are either dying or have already died and gone away. We almost always find the team, the people who are in charge of behavior-based safety at the site, have lost their results orientation. And they have gotten into a process mentality. They're bragging about hitting their target number of observations, even though there's no related accident reduction or improvement in safety performance related to all of those activities. So we applied this to existing behavior-based safety, and we said, where is the MUDA? Where are the wasted efforts? Where are the non-value added steps? And there are a number of them that we found. Unfortunately, the model for behavior-based safety, which became very popular in the late 80s, even though it's been given new names and new twists and positioning, the basic methodology of it hasn't changed a great deal over the years. And so when we looked at that 80s mentality process, we found a lot of MUDA in there. Number one, very many sites have large and impractical steering committees. The early idea was that a steering committee or steering team, whatever you call it at your site, needs to be representative of the site. Well, that's true. You need someone on that team that knows the issues from various areas of the plant and safety. But when you get someone from every end of every line on every shift, a lot of times you put together a team that never can meet. And some of the people have to come in on off days. Some of the people have to come in on overtime. Sometimes that's a problem. I just came from a plant several weeks ago where the problem was if you did come in on your off day, you got paid time and a half, or I think double time even, at that particular plant. So the real problem wasn't holding it when the people were at work. Everybody wanted it held when they weren't at work so they could come back in and make the extra money. One of the other things is that we fail to use existing teams and structures. Very often we go into a site and there's a team already put together that would be quite adequate, or sometimes with just a little modification, to be a VBS steering team. Too many checklist behaviors. Very, very often we go into a site and they're working on 25 behaviors. We've even seen 2- and 3-page checklists. These are overload. These are tremendously overloading to workers. You can't make 25 changes in your own behavior at the same time. Even if you've got 25 things you need to work on, you really ought to eat that elephant one bite at a time rather than trying to get it all at once.